Thanks for listening to the Granite List Live. Today's episode is brought to you by Connect Healthcare Collaboration, where benefits marketing meets clinical advocacy to drive effective employee engagement.
This is the Granite List Live, where we explore all things human capital and employee benefits related. I'm your host, Lee Dill, and I am joined today by Katie Rapley, Head of Marketing at BrightDime. And today we're talking about financial stress, how financial stress impacts your people and their productivity and their ripple effect into your organization. Katie, thanks so much for joining me today.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So your company, BrightDime, really helps with practical, human-centered ways to support employees in the organization. It's so much different than pulling in a 401k plan or a retirement plan where you have advisors help with retirement needs. You focus on the financial stress and the current situation that these employees are in. Can you tell us a little bit about what is financial stress and what might it look like within an employee in an organization?
Of course. So we call ourselves a financial wellness company, and financial wellness means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I kind of want to start by explaining why we go after financial wellness and that wellness term. So when an employee is experiencing financial stress, it doesn't clock out when they go to work. It comes with them. And really what we are trying to address is helping them understand, number one, where their finances are today. What is their full financial picture? Because oftentimes we don't even know what our net worth is. And so understanding that full picture is really, really key to having all the information that you need in order to make those good financial decisions. So that's kind of step one for us. Step two is understanding, okay, I know where I am today. Where do I want to go tomorrow, next month, 10 years from now? What's my goals for the future? We have a lot of tools that help them to set those goals. And then, of course, the support along the way. That's also financial wellness. We want to be able to address that stress whenever it comes up and hopefully be able to prevent that in the future.
Well, you pulled up financial wellness and how y'all consider financial wellness similar to preventative care. Can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so we're thinking about this in the same terms of medicine. So you have your primary care doctor that you go to for all of your wellness needs. Whenever you have, the flu, you go to your primary care doctor. When you have a concern, you have that existing relationship. And just like with medicine, preventative care is so much less expensive and it's easier than that emergency care. We all know how expensive going to the emergency room can be. Mm-hmm. And so we're thinking about financial wellness as preventative care because we do have some existing kind of emergency benefits, and employers are already offering a lot of really fantastic financial wellness benefits. They're offering retirement plans. They're offering HSA plans. They have maybe an emergency loan program, and those are all pieces of the puzzle. But what we need is the glue that ties it all together, that preventative care. And that's kind of where BrightDime comes in, where we're able to offer high touch preventative care. We want to be your primary care physician when it comes to finances so that we can address concerns before they become an emergency, so that we can prevent that future financial stress, and so that we can then also make trade-offs to that emergency care where it's needed. When you're with BrightDime, you have a financial coach. It's unlimited. They're there to be that emergency care as well. But what's really cool about financial wellness as an employee benefit is if we're plugged into the full benefits ecosystem, let's say we have an employee who comes and they have a large one-time medical expense and they are, they've put it on a credit card, they're kind of under all this debt, and they're now seeing their BrightDime coach. Their BrightDime coach knows what other benefits are available to them. So they might be able to say, hey, let's solve this problem right now. Your employer also works with an emergency loan provider. So let's get you started with that so you can get lower interest rate and get rid of that debt faster. But your employer also has this really great HSA plan, which could have saved you 20% on this medical expense in the first place. This looks like a good fit for you and your goals and your finances. So let's set you up for that now so that the next time we have a circumstance like this come up, we're able to weather that storm better. That's really the key to that preventative care aspect is that, especially as an employee benefit, we can kind of plug into all the resources that are offered for this employee.
I love that, how you really are sitting in the hub of the financial plans that are available to these employees.
Exactly.
So many employees are impacted by financial reasons. Probably there's a whole host of them that we won't go into, but financial stress does show up in the workplace. And can you kind of tell us what that might look like so that if a manager or an HR leader were to identify somebody that might utilize your platform, what would they be looking for?
So when it comes to identifying financial stress in the workplace, it can actually be quite difficult because we don't want to talk about money with other people, especially not our employer or our coworkers. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is HR is really vigilant, and every time someone comes to them with financial stress, they want to be able to connect them with resources. Unfortunately, what's happening right now is sometimes that's too late. Mm-hmm. And when an employee comes to HR with financial stress, they're already losing sleep over this. They might already be working a second job. They're already under this mountain of debt. They're stressed out. They are, missing deadlines at work. They're distracted. Their productivity has gone down. By the time we're seeing these impacts at work, there's a big problem, and that employee oftentimes is already looking to leave for an opportunity that pays more. And so what we want to do is give HR a way to provide this resource before it's needed. That's why that preventative care is so important. So when we come in to an organization, we work on a per eligible employee per month basis, which means that every single employee has access to BrightDime, so that when they have that first emergency come up, or when they are having a goal, let's say they're welcoming a new child into their family, or they want to buy a home, when they have that life event that happens, when they want to access that financial care, it's already available to them. They don't have to go through that hurdle of talking to their employer about it. They don't need to request that help. And that means that HR can kind of rest easy. They don't have to field financial questions. They can just know that that resource is available and that we're marketing that correctly to their employees. So when they need it, it's there. They can build that relationship.
That's great. And being head of marketing too, I'm sure you work a lot alongside the user experience within an organization.
Yes, that's probably my favorite thing to do, is work on the user marketing, because it is so exciting to be able to identify these problems that people are having, or these exciting moments that are happening in their lives, be able to reach them with the right messaging so that they can take advantage of all the savings that are available to them by working with a financial coach.
Absolutely. And, you have to remember too, even if you have a lot of money, you might think you need a financial coach, but those that are just trying to make ends meet might need one too. How do you market to those people that say, well, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or, I'm not worthy of having a financial coach, you could say. How does that work?
Yeah. I think we have kind of this misconception that a financial coach and a financial advisor are the same thing. And financial advisors are fantastic, and they are so good at advising people on how to make investments and manage their money. But you're right, they are kind of more useful for those of us who have that extra money to put towards investing. And what a financial coach is think of them like your personal trainer. They are there to get you in the gym, no matter what your fitness goals are, no matter where you're starting from. They're there to give you that advice on form, so you know how you should be working out your finances, what things are going to give you the most bang for your buck. And they're also there to encourage you to use my analogy, to get in the gym, to be there every day and to keep working on it. I would say 80-90% of our coaching sessions are about debt. That's our bread and butter. 78% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. So we are really plugged into those stresses that people are experiencing. Mm-hmm. And our coaches have so many tools in their toolkit for helping you get out of debt in a way that doesn't feel like you're sacrificing your lifestyle, that doesn't feel like a restriction on the things you're allowed to do. We're really all about working with you to understand what your priorities are and making your money go to work as hard as you go to work for your money.
That's great. And I loved your analogy. And so going back to preventative care or a trainer at the gym, what does appointment setting sessions look like with your financial coaches? Is it call them when you need them? You set up monthly recurring appointments? Kind of walk us through what that might look like.
So actually, exciting announcement. We just increased the times and ways that you can interact with BrightDime coaches. So we have made an increase in the hours. So you can now talk to coaches after hours, after work, while you're at home. You can also chat with coaches via in-app chat on the web application. You can chat with coaches via text message from your phone. You can call in to coaches, and you can now have video sessions with coaches. So whatever you're comfortable with, we have a method for that coaching to take place.
Wow.
And scheduling is really easy. Oftentimes what we'll see is we encourage people to kind of set up at least once a year a check-in, like you have your yearly physical at the doctor. Go in, have an expert look everything over. Oftentimes what happens in those checkup appointments, that's kind of what we encourage people to do when they first join BrightDime, is the coach will identify something that's a goal that they can work on, or maybe an issue that needs to be addressed. They'll set up recurring coaching sessions. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to set up a weekly session while you're dealing with a financial emergency or financial stress, and you want to have weekly sessions for a few months, and then you're feeling good. Everything's kind of on autopilot. I don't want you to spend all of your time talking about money, thinking about money either. I want you to be able to go out and live your life. So maybe you drop it down to like a quarterly check-in with your coach. And then let's say you have a new goal that comes up and you want to go back to weekly sessions. That's typically the cadence that we see. Periods of really, really high use, and then periods of keeping things on autopilot, checking in, having an expert just make sure that I'm not missing anything so that I can really turn my brain off when it comes to money.
Yeah, no, that's so great. And you get the same coach. So if I sign up,
same coach,
and they'll have all my information, and I can don't have to start from square one again, explaining what's going on.
If you want to try out a couple of coaches and find the person who works best for you, again, like a personal trainer, you want to find the person who works best with your style. But once you find your coach and you want to keep them, that's your coach. You can stick with them for the whole time.
Yeah, I love that. So walk us through a success story. Can you share, what it looks like before and after BrightDime?
Yes. I really love telling this story because I think sometimes I get really excited about success stories and saying, all the great things that BrightDime can do. But also, I kind of want to give a story of someone with and without BrightDime, because you can have employers who are offering really fantastic financial benefits that still aren't quite meeting the mark. So when we talk about this story, I like to use Alex's story. So Alex is a mid-level employee at your company. Alex is really hardworking. He's reliable, but he's financially stressed. And so what happens is, unfortunately, Alex gets into a car accident. He has this medical expense. And at his current company, he's got existing financial wellness benefits. He has a 401k match. He has an HSA available to him, but he isn't enrolled. And so what happens to an employee like Alex is he's got this medical bill that he puts on a credit card because, like 78% of us, he's paycheck to paycheck. Like 40% of us, he can't afford a $400 emergency. So Alex ends up putting this on a credit card with a 20% interest rate. And keep in mind here, the minimum payment on this bill, which was $3,000, is $90 a month. And so if Alex, who's paycheck to paycheck, he doesn't have money set aside for savings, if he only pays the minimum amount, it's going to take him 13 years to pay off that card.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to cost him $5,698.
Wow.
It's a huge expense. So what started as an emergency, a $3,000 emergency, is now an almost $6,000 emergency that's going to cost him 13 years of stress. And the thing is, Alex is already paycheck to paycheck. So he might not even have $90 to put aside towards this card every month. And that could hurt his credit, which could impact his future ability to qualify for a mortgage. There's all of these kind of ripple effects that go from there. So Alex might be, losing sleep. He might be missing deadlines at work. Maybe he takes a 401k loan, pushes back his retirement goals in order to kind of meet this emergency expense. That's what might happen to an employee without BrightDime. I apologize to Alex. I'm going to put him through the same situation. He's still going to get in the car accident. He's still going to have this $3,000 emergency expense. But this time, Alex has BrightDime. He has a high touch care. He has unlimited financial coaching. He has that education that he can access on demand. And he has live events that he can attend. And he has these tools to understand his finances. I love this story because I get to show you kind of exactly how an employee uses this. So let's say Alex doesn't want to talk to his employer about his finances, which means Alex doesn't really want to talk to a stranger, even though they are a financial coach, about his finances either. So Alex joins a live event instead. He sees that there's a live event about ditching debt. Alex has some debt he wants to ditch. He joins the webinar. He gets on this live event and he sees one of BrightDime's coaches in action. And he goes, wow, I learned some great information. I have a takeaway from this. And I see how empathetic, how caring, how non-judgmental these individuals are. So Alex requests the same coach who gave the webinar, and he ends up having a session with that coach. And he's able to dive into his budget, identify his priorities. They identify $300 per month that Alex can free up, which is fantastic.
Right.
Here's where things get really exciting, is because the coach is an expert in debt. So the coach identifies a 0% interest balance transfer card that Alex can use. So now he's only paying a 3% transfer fee to transfer this debt from this 20% interest credit card. Alex is now paying off that $3,000 medical bill at 0% interest. It is costing him absolutely $0. It's only taking him 18 months to pay off that card, which initially would have taken him 13 years. And he has an additional $160 per month he can set aside for savings, build his emergency fund, start really saving for his future, investing for his future. He can attend live events. He can learn about his company's HSA. His coach can help him get set up with that HSA so that if he has an emergency medical expense in the future, all of his medical expenses are now 20% off. The real key here is that that relationship doesn't end with that stressor. Alex and his coach are going to continue to work in the future. Alex's coach might help him with his dream of buying a home, work with him over multiple years, help him to really become invested in his financial future. And that employee is going to be so much more productive and happy and involved in the company than an employee without that support. So instead of being overstressed, instead of losing sleep over his finances, Alex is now really amped about his company. He's put down roots. He's bought a home. He is hitting his deadlines. He's become a leader in the company because he's got all of this weight off of his shoulders and he's able to really focus.
Yeah, go Alex. Love that.
Alex did all the hard work. We were just there to support.
That's so great. That's so great. Katie, I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing Alex's journey. We're just cheering him on as he buys his house and grows in the company that he's with. As people are listening to this, what type of organizations does BrightDime work best with?
I love this question because the answer is all of them. We have found particular success with healthcare companies lately, but we will work with anyone of any size. So if you would like to offer financial wellness to your employees, we would love to chat about that regardless of kind of where your budget is. We have kind of tools at every budget price point. So we love working with companies of all sizes and budgets.
Great. And if someone wants to reach out to get in touch, where do we need to point them?
Yes. So I'm going to send you a direct email so that we can get started as soon as possible. So I'm going to send you to my colleague, Dan Komisar. And the email you'll want to email is dan.komisar@brightdime.com. That's dan.comisar@brightdime.com. And Dan will set up a session to hear about the stresses that you're seeing in your employees, and we will custom make a financial wellness solution for your organization.
Excellent. Well, Katie, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today and sharing practical, human-centered ways to support your employees and thinking about not just preventative care in healthcare, but also preventative care in financial wellness. So, Katie, thank you again for joining us on the Granite List Live.
Thank you so much, Lee. This was fantastic. We love the Granite List, and I'm so happy to have done the session with you.
Well, yay. Well, thanks again. And to everybody else, thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Granite List Live. Access our entire library by visiting your favorite podcast venue or subscribe on our site, thegranitelist.live.